So you're trying to get home care through the VA. It can feel like you've been dropped into this massive maze with no map, right? You hit all these twists and turns and dead ends, and it just leaves so many veterans and their families feeling totally frustrated and lost. But don't worry. In this explainer, we're going to walk through this maze together. We're going to give you a clear map to the benefits that you've earned. All right, here's our plan. First, we'll break down why it feels like a maze to begin with. Then, we're going to uncover the two totally separate paths you can take. We'll look at the pension option and then the direct healthcare option. After that, I'm going to give you a step-by-step roadmap to follow. And we'll finish up with what is maybe the most crucial piece of the entire puzzle: how to really truly advocate for yourself. So, why is this whole thing so darn confusing? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple, but it's the number one reason people get stuck. It's because the VA isn't really one single thing. You have to think of it as two completely separate organizations that just happen to operate under the same roof. Once you get that, everything else starts to make sense. And this is that fundamental split I was just talking about. Think of it this way. You wouldn't go to the DMV and ask them to process your passport application, right? I mean, yeah, they're both government agencies, but they do totally different things. The VA is exactly the same. Just knowing which side you need to be talking to is the first and biggest step to getting what you need. So let's break down those two sides. Okay, so here it is, laid out perfectly. On one side, you've got VA benefits. Just think of this as the money side. They handle all the pensions, the financial-based stuff. Then, on the other side, you have VA healthcare. This is the doctor side. They're the ones who handle all the medical services, treatments, and, this is the important part for us, the actual in-home caregivers. They are two totally different worlds. And I want you to really let this sink in. This quote from our source material says it all. They do not talk to each other. And that is not an exaggeration. The money side has absolutely no idea what the doctor's side is doing, and the doctor's side has no idea what the money side is doing. Just knowing this one single fact is going to save you an unbelievable amount of frustration, because you'll know not to go to the benefits office asking for a caregiver. Now that we know about the two sides, let's explore that first path. This one falls under VA benefits. Remember, that's the money side. It's called the aid and attendance pension. And you know what? This is where a lot of the confusion really starts. So let's be absolutely crystal clear on this. Aid and attendance is not a home care service. It's a pension. It is cash paid directly to the veteran. And yeah, it's intended to help pay for care, but the VA doesn't track how it's spent. The veteran gets the money and they can use it for whatever they need. So who actually gets this pension? Well, the qualifications are pretty tight. It is definitely not for every veteran. It's based on serving during very specific wartime periods, and, this is key, you have to meet very, very strict income and asset limits. On top of that, the application process can drag on for 6 months or even more. Because of all that, it is highly, highly recommended you work with a Veteran Service Officer, a VSO. They're pros who help veterans with this exact kind of thing for free. And here's the biggest hurdle of them all. As a general rule of thumb, if a veteran's combined income and assets are over about $150,000, they're not going to qualify for this pension. This financial cutoff is the main reason so many people apply and then are really surprised when they get denied. All right, so if the pension isn't the right fit, what's the other option? Well, this is path number 2, and it takes us over to the doctor side of the VA. And for most people, this is the path you're actually looking for when you want a professional caregiver to come into the home. Okay, so the official name is a Home Health Aid Authorization, or HHA. And unlike the pension, this isn't cash in your pocket. With this one, the VA pays an accredited home care agency directly to send a professional caregiver right to the veteran's home. So if that's what you're after, you're in the right place now. Now, here's the huge difference from the pension. Eligibility for VA healthcare is almost all about your military service, not your bank account. The details can vary based on when you served, but it usually involves a minimum period of active duty. And, this is really important, recent laws like the PACT Act have opened the doors for a lot more veterans, especially those who are exposed to toxic hazards during their service. Okay, so we figured out the two different paths. Now for the really practical part. How do you actually get it? Let's walk through the exact steps for securing care through that VA healthcare side. So this is the big one, right? How do you actually do it? I know it can seem like this mountain of paperwork and bureaucracy, but it really boils down to a clear 5-step process.
Here is the exact path to follow. Step 1, you need your DD-214. That's your discharge document. It's the master key to everything. Step 2, you'll fill out a couple of forms to apply for the health benefits. Step 3, and this one is huge, we'll come back to it, you contact your local VA eligibility office. Step 4, you have to get an appointment with a VA primary care doctor to get established in their system. And finally, step 5. That doctor will order an assessment, usually by a physical or occupational therapist, and they're the ones who will determine how many hours of care you actually need.
Okay, listen up because this slide has a massive time-saving pro tip on it. If you just Google the VA, you're going to find a national 1-800 number. Do not call it. That number sends your application into a giant processing center, and it can get lost in there for months. The secret, the insider tip, is to physically walk into your local VA hospital, find their eligibility office, and hand your paperwork to a real person. I know it sounds simple, but it can literally shave months off your wait time.
We're at our final section, and honestly, this might be the most important one of all. You can follow every single step perfectly, but if you don't do this part right, you might not get the care you actually need. It is all about being your own best advocate. And this quote right here, it gets to the absolute core of a huge challenge. There's this powerful suck-it-up mentality in military culture. The problem is, when it comes time for that care assessment, that instinct to downplay any problems can completely backfire. If you tell the assessor you're doing fine, well, they're going to write that down, and you'll end up with way less help than you actually need.
So what does good advocacy look like? It looks like this. Before any assessment, the family needs to sit down and get on the same page about being brutally honest. The rule of thumb should be this. If the assessor asks if you struggle with a task and it's ever happened even once, the answer is yes. This is not the time to be stoic. Do not undersell the need. And remember, if a veteran's condition gets worse, you can always call their social worker and ask for a reassessment.
Look, the VA home care maze is complex, there's no doubt about it, but it is not impossible. Now you have the map. You know about the 2 separate VAs, you have the 5-step roadmap for healthcare, and you know just how critical it is to be an honest and persistent advocate. The care you or your loved one earned, it is within reach. The key was just knowing how to navigate this system.